Hello, Leaders Lounge people. I am excited to be here with you again for another year of the Leaders Lounge. Thank you for joining my session on overcoming overwhelm. This is probably my most asked for presentation that I do and what people appreciate the most about what I teach. So I am going to begin on how I overcome overwhelm. People often ask me how I juggle everything. I am a child care center owner. For those of you who don't know me, actually, let me introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Evelyn Knight, and I am on a mission to touch 10 million children's lives. I knew I could not do this by owning enough centers. I pretty much knew that I couldn't own enough centers myself to touch 10 million children, but I knew I had a God given mission to help 10 million children through childcare. So, what I decided to do was to start coaching owners and directors on how to have successful programs that really focus on the mental health for the childcare center leaders and put the best practices in place for the children. I am a child care center owner myself who has a 5-star quality program that is going through an ECE accreditation because I understand the importance of accreditation and just doing what's best for the children. But when you are an overwhelmed leader, you can't always do what's best for the children. So it's important to take care of your mental health. So I am also, I have degrees in psychology. I'm a certified life coach, but mostly I'm a business coach now. I'm also the host of the Child Care Business Coach podcast, and I am actually leading the charge for the ECE revolution. The old format of ECE does not work anymore. That is why you're overwhelmed. That is why you felt drawn to take this course because it does not work anymore. So we need to change. We have to change if we're going to survive as an industry, if your mental health is going to survive. I was once an owner that sat in the car of my, or I sat in the car in the parking lot of my childcare center. At the time, I owned multiple programs and I drove from one to the other one that I was the director of as well. And I sat in my car and I just cried and I did not want to go inside my building. I was so overwhelmed with the work that was ahead of me that I just couldn't get myself to get out of my car and walk inside my building. It was that bad. So I prayed. I just sat and I prayed. I said, God, I know this is your vision for my life, but I can't do this anymore. So please show me if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I grabbed my purse and walked in. As soon as I walked in, I put my purse down on my desk, and one of my teachers, it was actually my infant teacher that still works for me till this day. She's been with me for about 12 years now. And she brought me this little baby that was only, gosh, it was about between 2 to 3 months old. And she said to me, in case you forgot why you're here, I thought you needed a reminder. This little baby was left in the hospital in Las Vegas. She was actually born to a mother who was addicted in meth. And because I don't charge a copay for foster parents, the family in my hometown drove 9 hours to Las Vegas to foster this little baby. They were able to afford childcare because of a program we had. That child is now about 9 years old and has been adopted by that family. But that day, it was loud and clear to me that I am doing what God wanted me to do, and I had to figure things out. I had to get a hold of my own mental health so I could show up for the children. Now, I use those experiences to teach you, ECE leaders, how to get a hold of your business and your mental health. I also have a podcast called the Child Care Business Coach Podcast, which you can find everywhere. That is going to focus on best practices for business, your classrooms, and your mental health. You could have the best training in the world. You could have the best systems, everything in the world in your childcare center. But if your mindset isn't where it needs to be, if you wake up every single morning and you dread your days, then you're not going to be able to step up to be the leader that you can be. And that's why I combine mental health with business coaching. So let's get to it. The first thing that you need to do in order to really help get yourself out of that place of overwhelm is identify the problems. And this is where you're going to have an honest talk with yourself. What I see all the time in early childhood education is leaders who blame their staff. They say, well, I just can't afford to hire quality people. So the people I get, they're awful. And my staff, they just don't live up to my expectations. They don't do this, they don't do that. They're always just like not listening to me. They rearrange the classroom when I don't allow them to, and they do all these things, right? Or it's these parents are so hard to deal with. They medicate their children before they come to school. They don't pay their bills. Where's the common sense, right? First thing I can tell you is there's no such thing as common sense. So get rid of that notion. If you don't follow me on social media, make sure you follow me. I talk about this all the time. I do a Mindset Monday video every Monday where I discuss, I have a TikTok I did on common sense. And just get rid of the notion. There is no such thing as common sense. What is common sense to me is not common sense to you. I can guarantee it. And what you may see as common sense isn't common sense to me. Common sense is a notion that really will just drag you down. So we need to step into our lives. And I know a lot of people are like, this lady's crazy. But hear me out. When you release that notion, you understand that the expectations we put on people are kind of unrealistic, right? And the best part is we don't even tell them. We expect things out of them that they don't even know. It's all in our head. The best example of this happened to me one year when I had this amazing teacher. She was the best teacher that I've ever, one of my best teachers. I loved her. But suddenly she went through the season where she was really disappointing me. I just felt like there was nothing she was doing right. I just couldn't believe it. She was so amazing. And I kept thinking, what is going on with her? What is happening? She's not with the kids the way that she should be. She's not like putting out curriculum the way I think she should be. Her parent interaction isn't the way I think it should be. So it came time for me to do her employee review. So I sat down and I started to do her semi-annual review. And I was shocked because it was one of the most perfect employee reviews I have ever done. And let me tell you, I wrote my employee reviews. So I wrote it based on the expectations that I had trained my teachers on. That was a moment as a leader that I had to admit that her performance and my disappointment was my fault, not hers. I was not showing up for her as the leader that she needed me to be. I did not have clear expectations. The expectations that I had created for her, that I had verbalized to her, that I had given to her in writing, and that I had trained her on, she was living up to. So that was my fault, not hers. So I'm going to go through a lot of things today to teach you how to fix that. But the first thing I know many of you are thinking is, I don't have time. But you do have time. We need to work on your time management. So as you identify the areas that you need to overcome, the first thing you need to do is figure out your time management. I guarantee you have time. I run 2 companies. I own a childcare center that I am a co-director at. I run the company that is bringing you this, Childcare Business Professionals, that has helped over 100 childcare center directors and owners figure these things out. Like figure to help them with their time management, help them come up with organization. And I nursed my husband while he was terminally ill. I was his full-time nurse. If I have time, I guarantee you have time. The problem is that you probably don't know how to respect your time, and your time is probably not organized, and you're probably not making your staff respect your time. So if your staff thinks that they can come in your office and interrupt you at any moment, if they think they can come to you and say, hey, I can't find the paper. Where is the paper? We're out of glue or paper towels. Then you haven't trained your staff to respect your time. And that is on you as a leader. If you stop doing what you're doing to go help everybody, right? If you're working on your subsidy building and a staff member comes in and says, hey, I have this problem with a parent I need to work on right now, and you stop what you're doing to go help them, then you're not respecting your own time and you need some time management help. I do have a course that I can help you with. You can reach out to my team and we can help you get on track, and I will give you my contact information at the end of this. But I only have 30 minutes today, so it's not going to be enough time. The next thing you really need to do is really define your expectations. And this is where you're going to need the time management. When you define and you clearly define your expectations for your people, you're going to get to a place where you can help them understand what you really do want from them. You want to document every single thing they want to do, right? You want to basically come up with what are called SOPs, systems of operation. And what an SOP is going to do for you is it's going to help you figure out exactly what needs to be done. For example, for diaper changing, I have an 8-step SOP, and every single one of my staff members is trained on exactly how I want a diaper changed. My staff is trained on how I want tables cleaned. I get that detailed. I literally have steps that they are trained on how I want my floors, my tables, and everything cleaned. There's more details like nap time. I have detailed steps on what I expect them to do at nap time. What is their expectation on the playground? They are expected to be in certain stations. They're expected to play with the children, but I also teach them how to play with the children. Okay. I have systems of operations and expectations set up for them on how I expect them to speak to the parents, what I expect them to speak to them about every single day during drop off and pickup. I have expectations on potty training that the parents get as well. SOPs, systems don't only have to be for the children, those are for parents too. So every single one of my parents has to go through an orientation when they come into my program that teaches them what I expect out of them. I teach them, and then I don't have these issues later. Do you have issues with parents who don't want to pay when their child doesn't show up? Well, from day one, my parents understand that they are paying for enrollment, not attendance. So I don't have that issue later down the road. My teachers understand that nap time isn't their break. They understand that that is the time that they write curriculum, they gather supplies for the next day, they do any kind of prep work and deep cleaning of the classrooms. It's all laid out for them in systems. They're also trained on it. My new hire training is a 30-day documented system that they do while they're on the job. So you're not paying them outside of the classroom, but it's a system that I've created that they do while they're on the job. So after the first 30 days, they know their expectations. My complete onboarding system is actually 6 months long, where I fully assimilate them into the program. So every month after those first 30 days, they're going to have things that we're training them on intentionally on the job. My current staff had to go through that training, and they are trained on how to train. So that doesn't take up my time. So my systems are very well documented. And by the way, you guys, this is all stuff that I train and I give you in my membership. So if these are things you want, again, get a hold of us. But systems of operation are so important. The next thing that you really want to focus on is you want to come up with an illustration of what's happening, right? You cannot do this alone. You cannot do it alone. So your systems of operation, what we want to do is have them illustrated first and foremost. So you want them documented. There has to be something that you can come back in writing, has to be in writing. And it doesn't have to be a paper manual. It can be automated, right? But there has to be something where you have documented and trained your staff on. That way, when you come back to them and say, hey, this is the policy, here it is, this is the date that you were trained on it, now you can actually hold them accountable. And we need to be holding our staff accountable. It is so very important. Think about why you are so frustrated and overwhelmed. Most of the time, it's because you're trying to do everything, right? Way more than you can. You're afraid to delegate because you're afraid nobody can do it like you. And you're afraid, or they're not meeting your expectations of doing what you want. When you have these documented systems in place, you're basically learning how to duplicate yourself. And that is my secret right there. I have learned how to duplicate myself over and over and over again. And that's because I literally took everything I do, I made the step-by-step procedures, and it's not as hard as you guys think. I know that sounds like it's such a huge task, but it's not nearly as hard. And I do it for you through my membership site, through Childcare Business Professionals. But I basically created these things and then I train them. I train them how to be me. And now I have so many people that train my staff on how to be me that I don't even have to be at my center anymore. I'm only there 10 to 20 hours a week. And now I have 2 companies that I run. And I'm even in this company, I'm doing the same thing. I'm duplicating myself again and again and again. And it's I know your time management is like, "Oh my gosh, that's too much," but it really isn't. Trust me, again, if I did this while I was running 2 companies and I was my husband's full-time nurse, you can do it too. We just need to teach you how to organize your time, and you need to have respect for your time. Let me put it this way. If you were to hire me as a business coach and you just wanted an hour consultation with me, right? You are gonna call me and you're gonna book an appointment with me. You are going to have the respect for me to put that on your calendar and show up for our appointment. If one of your staff members comes in and says, "Hey, I can't figure out this child is just behaving really bad. I need you to come in." You're gonna say, "I just can't right now. I have an appointment." Even if it's via Zoom, right? You're gonna say, "No, I can't right now." Do you show yourself the same respect that you show me? Are you showing yourself the same respect for your time that you would show me if you had an appointment with me? Most of the time, the answer is no. You're going to make an appointment with yourself to figure out your bookkeeping, right? Or whatever it is, your billing. And you're going to break that appointment with yourself. And this is why things aren't happening in your center. Like you're probably not observing your classrooms, you're not giving them feedback. My full time director at my center that has 22 employees has the time every month. She actually goes in and observes every single classroom, and every employee in our center gets feedback once a month. We do monthly what we call glows and grows, right? So that is something you can do too. You just have to learn how to manage the time, come up with those systems of organization and operations. Because when you do, now you have something to come back on. When you actually do have these meetings with your employees, you can say, "Hey, remember, this is our policy. This is how we trained you to do it. This is how I want to see it done," right? If you have an employee handbook, and most of you don't even have policies and procedures, but if you do, I can guarantee you your employees are not reading them. They are not reading them. So you have to format it in a way that they will do it, which is why I've created my new hire training, because it is something that they are actually working through live in the classroom, and it's teaching them as they go. And so, yes, I have the book for them, right? But I've turned them into these bite-sized modules that they actually have to go and find the answers to and get trained on. So they know exactly what I expect out of them for every little thing. And now I have something to hold them accountable for. And I'll tell you, a couple weeks ago, I was at the Child Care Business Summit in Orange Beach, and my director and I were there together. We left our center, and the director and the owner and the co-director, we didn't have to be there. My center was fine because my staff knows what is expected of them. They know exactly, because we have the systems put in place. The next thing, though, when it comes to illustration, is you have to create an org chart or an organizational chart and have a hierarchy of people. This does not have to cost you more money. Many people think that this means it's going to cost them more money and they need more supervisors. But one person should never oversee more than 5 people. So if you're the owner, you should have only your director answering to you. And if you're the director, the assistant director should be coming to you. Every single teacher should not be coming to you. You can't do the job. There is no way that you have time to do your own job if you have every single teacher coming to you and all the children as parents, right? So at my center, we have 22 employees and about 150 families. If I had 150 families coming to my director and all 22 employees, when would she have time to do her own work? There's no way she could only work a 40-hour week. And I am very concerned with my director's mental health. So I do not want her working more than a 20 or a 40-hour week, right? And actually, you guys, part of that 40-hour weeks, she works 8 hours from home. From home. So she has private time to do like billing and any kind of correspondence. So she's actually only at my center for 32 hours a week. That is how well our center is managed. And that is because of our systems of operation and our organizational chart. So, we're going to be including a picture of what my organizational chart in the assets that we're giving you guys. So, take a look at that so you can see it's going to have me as the owner. My director is going to be right underneath me, right? And then I'm going to have my assistant director, but I also have an infant and toddler supervisor, and I have my preschool supervisor. I know what many owners are going to think. Your first thought is going to be, I can't afford that. Or if you're in a smaller program, well, I don't need that many. And you don't need to have that many. The key that you need to remember is one person should never oversee more than 5 people. So if you're in a small enough center and you're the owner director and you only have 5 employees, that's totally fine. You probably don't need an organizational chart, or you probably still want an assistant because you have all the families. It would really depend on how many families you come to you as well. You really never want to be the only person, because if you are, then how are you taking vacations? How are you nurturing you and your family? And I know a lot of you, when I said that, your first thought is, well, I'm not nurturing myself. That right there is why you're overwhelmed. That is why you're overwhelmed. I went through a season of my life where I wore like a badge of honor the fact that I went to work with an IV in my arm. I was so sick and I still went to work every day. I had my tonsils taken out. I had reconstructive surgery in my nose done and all these different things. Was back to work, same surgery all at once. I went to work 4 days later, got a huge infection, ended up in the hospital. I at that time worked 60 to 70 hours a week. I live today with a neurological disease that I will have for the rest of my life because I worked myself too hard. I used to think that going into beast mode and just doing the heavy lifting and constant work was what I needed to do to become successful. And I have learned that the opposite is actually true. When you're not nurturing yourself, when you're not taking advantage of your own mental health, you're actually going to start coming up with more problems for your body, and you're doing more damage than you would actually do if you didn't, if you really just took care of yourself. So, what I am going to tell you right now is you absolutely have to start taking care of yourself. I know that's hard to accept sometimes, but it is absolutely necessary. I'm going to show you guys a picture really quick of an illustration of me actually. And I spoke last week at a conference on fierce leadership and how to become a fierce leader. And I want to show you guys my before and after picture so you can understand the power of self-care, of like just really, really having true self-care. This is something I really did not understand until recently. And I wish I had really just leaned into more. But when I wasn't taking care of myself, let me make sure this is working. This is what I looked like. This is my transformation. And when I was doing this presentation, this slide here is from Victim to Victor, right? First picture is going to show you the first day I became a child care center owner at my first center. As things were going really bad for me and I was working 60, 70 hours a week, this was me in the middle. When I finally learned the importance of self-care, that is me in the right. I am now a successful business owner of multiple companies because I learned the hard way how much you need self-care. So if you need to work with me on this, please get a hold of me. I know what it's like to be exhausted, to feel alone, to feel like there is nobody who understands, because I was that person once. And that's why God has brought me here to help other leaders with getting out of that place of overwhelm. That girl I showed you in the middle, that was her. The person I just showed you that I used to be, that was the woman who thought that working 60 to 70 hours a week was a badge of honor. And it is not, you guys. It doesn't have to be this way. I want you to have an honest conversation with yourself on how much of your work are you really keeping and internalizing because you're so afraid to let it go. It's okay to delegate. Yes, your staff is going to mess up at times. That's okay. You did too. You're not perfect either. Now you need to learn to become their coach. You need to learn to become their mentor and their cheerleader. You need to help them learn how to get up when they fall down. And you need to take accountability, because a lot of time, the reason that they're not standing up and meeting your expectations isn't because they're not great staff. It's because of the lack of leadership skills. And I can tell you, the person I showed you in the middle, she was not a good leader at all. That's why she was working 60 to 70 hours a week. The person I used to be, that was 300 pounds and that now has a neurological disease because I worked myself too hard. She was a bad leader. And it wasn't until I went in a journey to become a better leader and I learned these things that I'm teaching you now, the importance of self-care, the importance of having an organizational chart, that I became the leader I am today. And it has affected my entire life. You can just look at me and see it, right? My entire life. And I actually set out to be a better leader. And now I've lost 160 pounds. I'm a happier person. My staff is much happier and healthier. I can afford to pay higher wages. It really does all line up when you start putting you first. That old adage of you can't save a child on an airplane if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, if you put the oxygen mask on them first, it really is true. You have to take care of yourself. So you need to execute. You need to execute, and you're going to execute that by making these things happen. You're going to create your organizational chart, your systems of operations, and you're going to train on them. My challenge to you right now is to give yourself an implementation date. When are you going to take action? Give yourself a date. If this is something you need help with, please reach out to me. I know how hard it is and how exhausting. When I was in that position, I felt like I was an island and nobody understood. My husband actually got to the point where he told me that he was done helping me. My mom did too, because I was so bad at that point. And it feels so lonely. And they do it at the goodness of their heart, because it's so hard for our families to see us suffering. But it truly puts us in a position where we don't know what to do, right? And we feel so alone, like nobody understands. So if you're in that place in your life, please reach out to me. I can help, and my staff can help as well. So the last thing, I'm going to just review what we've been over today. So, and if you look at the worksheet that we gave you, these are your answers. I'm giving you the answers to keep. One of the biggest things we miss in our business is systems of organization, and that will help you with your overwhelm. What needs to be put in place in order to take back control of your center is time management, an organizational chart, and systems of operations. That is the key. When you get those things in place, you will be able to take charge again. So I would like to offer you guys something just to help with motivation. I've put together the Child Care Business Summit, which is all about helping leaders level up. Part of my God-given mission is to help you learn how to become a next level leader, like I had to learn how to become. And so what I'm doing now is I've put this summit together, which helps business leaders learn the mindset that you need and also the business practices. So many of us owners and directors, we become owners and directors because we love children. We were great in the classroom. We were great with a lot of things. So we become leaders. What we don't understand is we don't know anything about business, right? We love childcare, but we don't know business. Most of you have never even heard of a term like an org chart or SOPs. If that is you, you definitely need to reach out to me for help. I can help with that. So I would also like to, though, if you would like to be put in a drawing for a free ticket to the Childcare Business Summit, send the phrase systems of organization will set you free to my email address, admin@childcarebusinessprofessionals.com, and put Leaders Lounge in the subject line, and we will enter you in to win a free ticket to the Child Care Business Summit. I also do free I also have a membership. So if you don't want to wait to start working with me, get a hold of me now and we can get you into my membership program, which you will get my organizational chart. You will get my parent handbook, my policies and procedures, my new hire training. I show up to work with you once a week. I actually do trainings every week for my members with all of our master coaches. And I have 2 office hours every week where you can just come and pick my brain and I will help you solve problems. All of our leaders actually work together. Here's more information on how you can contact me. I hope this presentation was good for you guys. Let me know in the comments.